Hi guys, in this video I just wanted to show you the cake that I made in the Cake International online group the other week. So it was based on one of my centaur kind of creatures, background creatures, and it was a face cake that we made. So you can still watch it in real time on the Cake International page, but I wanted to do a shortened versions for you guys on here. So I've got a 6-inch round cake. We just divided it in half and put some buttercream in the middle. I also had a small little spare chocolate cake. This is just a 4-inch one, but I actually cut it down quite a bit as well to try and get the shape for the nose. Now, I had frozen my cakes prior to doing this, so they're still a little bit frozen in the middle. So that's the little offcut of my small chocolate cake. You can use the same flavour cake as well if you want. You don't have to use different ones. And the offcut we kind of cut in half. I'm going to use that for the cheeks. And of course you don't have to create this kind of creature with it. You can just use it to create like a normal creature rather than a fantasy style one like what I did. Again, I've just put a little bit of the offcut just above the nose so we get a bit of a bridge of the nose. And then I am narrowing the top of the head a little bit. Want to remove a bit of area where I want the eyes to go. Just so that they dip inwards a little bit in my cake. And I'm going to cover the whole thing in buttercream now. Because I did this actually as a Facebook Live, I didn't have a huge amount of time to do this. So normally we would do a thin crumb coat, which is just a thin coat. Usually gets quite a few of the crumbs in from the cake. We smooth it off and we put it in the fridge for like 10-15 minutes, let it firm up, and then we can give it a second coat. But because it was live, we didn't have time for that, so we just had the one coat. So ideally spend a bit longer just to neaten it up. And I smoothed it off just with a flexible smoother, bending it round to scrape the buttercream. Now you can just use your normal fondant. I used a mix of fondant or sugar paste, which is the same thing, mixed with modelling chocolate. So you could go about half and half if you want. It just makes it really flexible, gives you a while to work with it. Also, I really like the taste of the modelling chocolate, okay? And I actually made my own modelling chocolate with this, but usually I would just buy it ready-made because I'm quite lazy like that. What I'm going to do as well, guys, is put links below the video to everything that I have used in this video, just to make it easier for you should you want to replicate it. So we cover the face in the paste, which is my mix of modelling chocolate and fondant, and then I press in all the details. And I have washed my hands, guys. I know usually I get quite a few comments saying that I'm not wearing gloves. I have washed my hands, and it's no one eating it other than me. So I've got a disc of like dark grey, and then I've put like a little cone shape of the leftover white fondant and modelling chocolate mix underneath. We put some hairlines in, and this is going to be kind of the chin area. Got a bit of a dip just above the grey, which is going to be sort of the inside of the mouth, and I've put 2 little cones in for the teeth, and then a little oval of pink squashed down in there fairly flat for the tongue, and just sticking it down with a bit of water. So this one, I think I spent just over an hour decorating this one, guys, but you can spend much longer. Like I say, because it was a Facebook Live, I'm always a bit more limited to how quickly I have to do it. So yeah, it's usually a little bit more of a rush job than if it's not a live video. So we've put in the nostrils using the balling tool and Dresden tool, and then we're just going to put some little indentations on there. So remember, it's not a realistic animal, this one. It was kind of a bit of a fantasy style one that I wanted to do for this. Keep hold of your offcuts because you might want to use those for the ears and body. Just make sure that mouth is staying in place. Apologies, my scruffy hair is in shot. And I'm just pressing into the eye sockets now with my balling tool just to make them a bit deeper for when I add the eyes. They just sit nicer in the socket if I've pressed it in. Okay, so I'm using white. You could use the same paste you've used for the face, that would be fine. Mine, because it was mixed with modelling chocolate, was a slightly creamy colour, so I've gone for pure white for the eyes. Just filling in as eye holes, and then we're drawing on some eyelids. So we're actually going to draw these above the eyes there. Just using a more rounded tool to kind of go over that. I realise you can't see it very well. And what I'm going to do is just cover the whole face in hair. So fairly short lines near the nose, and then a little bit longer as you come around. And I was just playing around with one of my little Serap tools that does sort of hairlines for you. So I just was having a bit of a go with that on the cheeks. And also using my Dresden tool. So longer lines on those cheeks, shorter near the nose, a little bit longer on the forehead. You can press quite firmly on this. And then we're just going to use some colours. So I'm just using my colour palette. It is an edible colour palette, this one, guys. And I just use these as dry dusts. Again, I'm going to put links below to what I've used. And apologies that I keep putting my head in shot. And then we work out where I want the middle of the eye to be. And I'm just going to put a little indentation in with my balling tool. You don't have to put an indentation. For me, it was easier to work out whereabouts I wanted the centre of the eyes to be. And you're just going to put a little bit of either black fondant or modelling paste in the centre, just fill in that little dip that you've created. And if you want to use a circle cutter to guess the size of your eye, you can do. You see, I already started drawing the iris on there, and then I thought I'd show you guys how to do it with the cutter. So it just gives you the circle marked out. So if you're not very good at drawing a circle, which I'm not, this is just going to help. And I'm using edible pens. You can use food colours and paint them on. You don't have to use the pens, but I do use these pens a lot. So these are my fractal coloured pens, which are for food use. And again, I'm going to put links below, and I'm trying to do lots of little lines. I'm trying to add different colours. So I've got a bit of pink, purple and green on there. And then I'm just using a tiny bit of water on my brush to kind of dilute that down and blend them together just a little bit. Then we want some white dots. You can paint the white dots in, and for me, I've just decided to go with the leftover white fondant from the eyes. You can put quite a few dots in if you want. You can even put little different shapes in, so like a little heart shape would actually look pretty cute in there. So this is the edible powder mixed with dipping solution, so I'm just showing you that you can paint it in as well as using your fondant. And we're rolling some thin pieces of black. Now I have swapped to the modelling paste just because it's a little bit firmer when I'm rolling nice thin pieces. Sometimes my fondant can be a little bit soft when I'm doing really thin pieces like this. And we're just going to cut it off. Just seeing what it looks like if I leave it longer than the eyes. I think I might change it. Let's do the top ones. So the top ones are a fairly long piece. It just wants to go across the top length of the eye. And it's fairly cut. I've pressed it fairly flat. So I've cut a straight edge, which will sit against the eye itself, and then we've cut out a little triangle from the end, so it looks like there's another sort of separate eyelash there. So can you see we've put that across the top, stuck it with just a little bit of water, or you can use edible glue, curling the eyelashes outwards. And then I think for the board we're going to cover it in fondant and maybe put some sprinkles on. So I was just having a look at the different sprinkles that I had here, and I think that these ones were the ones that colour-wise I thought went best with the pale blue that I'd got for the background. So I'm just going to roll out a piece of fondant again. So this is a nice baby blue colour, this one. So go fairly long because it's going to wrap around my cake. You can put a tiny bit of water on the board to hold it in place, and then just try and stretch that round. Now sometimes I realise that I haven't always rolled it wide enough to cover the board, so if not, just use your rolling pin to stretch it out again a little bit more. If it doesn't quite meet at the bottom, don't worry too much. Mine does, but if it doesn't, it's not to worry because we're going to put a bit of a body there anyway, so it will cover that seam at the bottom of the face. Just going to trim anything extra off from all the way around the board. And it still needs its ears. So I'm going to use some of that leftover paste for the body. So I've left it so it kind of comes just slightly beyond the board. Now you can put cake in your body if you want, but because the body wasn't that big, I decided not to bother on this one, but there's quite a lot of icing, so I probably wouldn't eat the body bit. So I'm just wetting my board slightly. I'm just using water so it will dry out, but you can steam the board actually, which will give it a nice tacky surface. And then all I'm going to do is place some sprinkles on there, just so there's a bit of patterning on the board. Some of the bigger ones I tend to place on individually, and then the smaller ones I will sprinkle on randomly. Some quite nice sprinkles in these. These were new ones that I got. So guys, remember, I'm going to put links to everything I use below the video so you can see. I do actually have an online shop as well. So most of the links will be links to my actual shop where you can get hold of the things that I'm using in the video. So for the ears, we roll like a long teardrop, and I kind of roll it out so it's a bit thinner in the middle, slightly thicker at each side. Now this is going to be too big, so we'll cut it down. But I'm gonna make two, try and get them the same, and we're going to just dust some pink in the middle of the ears. Again, I did this in a bit of a rush, so you can spend much longer. You can see the top ear, it had some cracks in it where I didn't really knead my paste together properly. So spend a bit of time kneading your paste just so that it smooths out those cracks. Now, they're going to sit inside the ear, so it's not too bad. We're going to probably cover them up. It's going to kind of fold in half, or almost half. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the end, a slant. Now, leaves my ear a bit too big because I don't want it hanging off the board too much. So I think that's a bit of length, yeah. So just pressing it down in place. The chocolate will be soft that's in your modelling paste at the moment, but once it cools down, it'll firm up quite a bit as well, guys. Okay, you can add some little hairlines onto the ears if you want. And remember, you could spend much longer than me on this. I can see where I haven't quite pushed the ear to its head fully on the right hand side. We'll sort that out in a minute. So I'm just rolling some individual pieces of hair just to stick in kind of that bottom corner, just so the ears look a bit furrier there. Let's push it against the head nice and firmly. Just gonna add a tiny bit of pink to those eyelids. And maybe we could darken just the edge of the fur. I'm gonna go for like a really dark grey for that. So remember, this is all the edible powder that we're using now, and then just kind of the edge of the fur that's going around the cheeks a little bit there. And let's put some on the hair on the chest. You could put some on the chin. I did actually forget about the chin, but you could put it on the chin as well. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget the full length one is on the Cake International page until the end of December. But also I do Facebook Lives on my own Facebook page every Tuesday morning, 10:30 a.m. UK time. So it'd be great if you could join us for that. If not, we'll be putting them all onto YouTube as shortened versions. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and more.